We're going to dive right into the question of the day, actually. I usually save it for the end, but I really want to hear your thoughts on your running form, your gait cycle. Question of the day, do you feel that your overall running form is more on the stiff end, a little like tight, or do you feel like you're fluid and that you have good range of motion with your running form? Okay, so that's the question of the day, and maybe by the end you will have a little better concept of what I'm talking about. Hip mobility, it's key for our overall gait cycle and running form. We talked about running form maybe 10 days ago. I'll try and link to it at the end of the vlog, where for me, going into Houston, by saying no to the mountains, I do feel like, now I'm gonna give you an update on my neck here in a minute. Before yesterday with my neck issue, I was feeling very, very smooth in my running. I felt like my foot strike was on point. My cadence was increasing. Again, by not getting as much vertical as of late, I do think that I'm getting a little more smooth, really focusing on my arm carriage. So anyway, that is why I want to bring up these hip mobility exercises, just to pass them along to you. There's 10 steps, there's 10 exercises. I'll walk you through all of them, film them for you. And listen, you do not need, if you're like, gosh, yeah, I am really stiff. I do feel like my gait cycle is just like kind of choppy or not smooth like David Rudisha. If any of us could ever run like David, not as far as speed is concerned, but just as fluid as he is, it's just so beautiful. So that is why, again, we're gonna dive in here. Hip mobility exercise number 1 is actually, it's not an exercise at all. It's a warm-up. It's the foam roller, but it's key. Before you start doing the hip mobility exercises, which some of them are a little dynamic, meaning there's quite a bit of range of motion. And did I already mention this? My range of motion in my legs, I think struggles a bit. I'm just gonna say it. I don't think I have a great range of motion at all. So it's something I'm working on leading into Houston, leading into 2020, as I chase down some faster races like the Brooklyn Half Marathon in 2020 on the road. So foam rolling is first. Make sure you foam roll your upper quads, your glutes. Remember, our glutes are our biggest muscles in our body, and just all around those hips, just really trying to warm them up and loosen up those hips. Okay, here we go. Hip mobility exercise number 2 is the windshield wiper. So I do 1 set of 20, that's all. All right, here it is on your screen, back and forth. Oh yeah, I should mention, this green pad is amazing. It's made by Hemingway is the company, and you know, if you have carpet in your house, that'll work as well, but it just takes the edge off of hardwood floors if you have hardwood floors in your house. It's a little hard to store in our house, but I'm really loving my green pad for these exercises and for stretching. So back and forth with the windshield wiper, 1 set of 20, so it'll be 10 on each side, back and forth, slower is better, and you want to get your knees all the way down to the ground. Now, you might not even be able to do that at the beginning, and it takes a little bit of hand-eye coordination, but over time you'll get it. Oh yeah, and I always try and keep my shoulders kind of back and my eyes up, just like I'm in running form, just like I'm in my running form or my running cadence, okay? So there you go. Moving on to hip mobility exercise number 3 is the windshield wiper with hip hinge, okay? Windshield wiper with hip hinge. And again, 1 set of 20, so 10 on each side, back and forth, but then you're gonna lift your arm, and so if you're going to the left, you lift your right arm, and then catch yourself going down and dip into it. You don't wanna use your lower back as the hinge, you wanna use your hip as the hinge, because that's what we're focused on working on, okay? So back and forth, and this one just gets a little deeper. So the previous 2, the foam rolling and the regular windshield wiper, is just to warm up for this one, the windshield wiper with hip hinge. So hopefully that one makes sense looking at it on the screen there for you. Moving on to hip mobility exercise number 4 is the clamshell. Just like a clam, opening and closing, nice and slow. And over time, as your hips begin to get stronger and more mobile, you can add a resistance band to this one. And I didn't use them today, but they're really actually pretty affordable, about $10, just to, again, give you a little resistance through this clamshell motion. And I do 1 set of 10 on each side, so I guess it'd be 20 total for the clamshells. But then I go right into my back, and I do the butterfly. So this is the butterfly on your screen, 1 set of 10. This is number 5, the butterfly, and it gets a little different motion and stretch through your groin, through your hip, through the outside of your hips. Oh, love the butterfly. It feels really good. And my right hip, as you know, has been a little tight as of late. So this butterfly is really, really helping. Okay, moving on, hip mobility exercise number 6. A lot of you have probably already done this. Hip bridges, okay? So your legs are out in front, then you bend your knees, okay? And then your shoulders are gonna kind of carry a lot of the weight. And I like to keep my arms crossed across my chest, but if you need a little more stability, you can put your arms on either side of you on the ground, and then you bring your hips up into the air, okay? And for this one, I do 2 sets of 10 for hip bridges, just nice and slow, up into the air, and then back down. And then up into the air, and then back down. And oh yeah, I like to hold it on top when I come up for about 1 second. It's just perfect. It just gets a little extra stretch and a little extra strength as well through the hips when I come up, and then just hold and then back down. And moving on to number 7 for hip mobility are the fire hydrants. So you know, dogs do their business on fire hydrants. This looks just like a dog doing his business. So you're lifting both legs up into the air just like a dog would, and you again lift up, hold, and back down. Lift up, hold, and back down. And 2 sets of 10, okay, for each side. 2 sets of 10. Oh, this one, compared to when I started doing this one, my hip has really improved quite a bit. It doesn't hurt, but it's actually pretty hard to do for me. So I need to continue to focus on this one. I don't know what it is with that range of motion, but so this is fire hydrant, 2 sets of 10 on both sides. And hip mobility number 8. Oh, this is amazing. This one is the range of motion, because you're really starting to get into that running form and running motion, are the donkey kicks, okay? So you're on the ground, your knees are on the ground, your hands are on the ground, and just like a donkey would kick behind him, I almost said throw, you kick back, kick your leg back, and again, we're not in a speed contest here. Slower is better, so you kick back, hold, and back. Kick back, hold, and back, and I'll do 2 sets of 10 on both legs. So that is called the donkey kick. This one is actually probably one of the easier ones to do, but I think it's really, really critical for improving your range of motion through those hip flexors. Onward and upward to hip mobility exercise number 9, and there it is the mountain climber. So now we're getting a little more dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? A little more range of motion, a little more explosiveness. And over time with this mountain climber, you can do it fast, and it turns into a great workout. I didn't do it fast for you today because I just wanted you to see it kind of in slow motion there on your screen right now, the mountain climber. I'll do 2 sets of 10 for each leg. So 20, I guess it would be 40 total. And so you put your arms on the ground like you're in the push-up position, your legs behind you, and then you bring your knee up past your arm, okay? Bring your knee up, opposite side, bring your knee up past your arm, and it's in the air. Your foot is in the air. It's not dragging on the ground. Both sides, back and forth. Oh, this one, it's not my favorite one, but I'm telling you, the more I do this one, the better I feel with respect to range of motion, and it's a core workout at the same time, because you will start to burn through your abdominal muscles, and you'll just start to burn because it is a difficult one. So that is called the mountain climber. I'll do 2 sets of 10, but frankly, you might just need to start with 1 set of 10 because it is a more difficult dynamic hip mobility exercise. Okay, number 10, here we go. Off the ground. So I get off the ground. I get off the ground because I want to, after doing all this exercise and mobility on the ground, we runners are not running on the ground. We're not laying down. We are up in the air. We're standing up nice and tall in our gait cycle, in our running form. So I like to do good mornings last. It is hip mobility, but it's also just kind of to stretch out everything that you did on the ground. So you're just simply bending over and then coming back up, trying to keeping your back, and I need to work on this, but trying to keep your back as straight as possible. And again, you don't want to you're trying not to use your lower back too much. You're trying to do all of the movement through the hips. And I'm still working on this as well, but this is called the good mornings, and I'll just do 1 set of 20, just up, and it's a pretty easy one. But again, it's just to return the body to that up position, that standing position, which is how we run as runners. There you go, improving running form through mobility. Now, I got to stay on this. Remember what we talked about yesterday? Persistence is key. It's so key. So I would recommend not doing all of those that I just mentioned, but pick out your favorites, and the key is that consistency. If we're consistent, we will begin to see our running form open up a little bit, become a little more nimble, a little more fluid through the gait cycle, and just like that knee drive to the next step and the next step and the next step, because those hip flexors, it's like there's so much. If you just look at the muscles and the tendons coupled with our bones in our hips, there is so much happening right through our hips. And again, as with everything, patience, it just takes time to work up and build up our range of motion.